for someone to present a quality virtual training for everyone, they answered the call. So again, thank you. Now, as I introduce Zan Zettler to you, let me just tell you, this guy is as a financial guru, just as well as James. And I've seen their presentations. They worked with us before, and what you're about to receive is going to be amazing and very, very helpful. And I strongly recommend that you listen carefully, take your notes as they go through their presentation. Is going to be a huge, valuable amount of information for you to use for your small businesses. And also, Zan is a credit officer for the South Carolina Community Loan, and he provides an oversight on the credit and portfolio for administrations, which include commercial underwriting, policy administration, credit risk methodologies, and counterparty risk management. He also holds degrees in accounting and finance, and he has various other licenses that he has. Now, that's just a little bit about what Zan does. That does not capsulize everything that he do, because he does quite a bit. So with James is the Chief Lending Officer, and he develops, directs, and implements leading strategies and policies for the South Carolina Community Loan Fund, leveraging nearly 2 decades of experience in the financial service industry. James forges partnerships with diverse stakeholders and groups in order to foster community economic development in underserved communities across the South Carolina as his blueprint. So without any more from me, here's Zan and James.
James and Zan, just before you start, to our participants, I want this to be a group, a very active group. So if you notice, we also have a Zoom chat on the right side of your screen. So you can write your questions throughout the presentation if you have any. And also, if you click on your participants button, there's an emoji with a hand. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll see it. Or you can write your questions into the chat box, and we'll make sure that your questions get answered. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that is also available. Without further ado, Mr. James and Zan, take it away.
Thank you so much, Erica. Thank you, Michelle, for the kind introduction. The whole team at the Office of Small Business Opportunity, we appreciate your partnerships on behalf of the board and staff of South Carolina Community Loan Fund. Thank you for thinking of us when you decided to do your very first Zoom webinar. We are honored to be your guinea pigs. So, to everyone on the webinar this morning, welcome to you, to my fellow teammates at South Carolina Community Loan Fund, who I've seen have hopped on. Thank you guys for joining as well. And to all of the barbers and beauticians on the call, you are in the right place this morning. And even if you're not a barber or beautician, you're still in the right place. And hopefully we will impart to you some information that you will find to be useful this morning. Certainly an honor to be with you here this morning once again. My name is James Chatfield. As my glamour shot would indicate there, I'm the Chief Lending Officer for South Carolina Community Loan Fund. And I am going to play sidekick today to Mr. Zan Zettler, our credit officer, who, as Michelle explained to you at the start of the call, just has a wealth of knowledge. So I'm going to try to stay out of his way and not trip him up too much and give you a brief introduction to who South Carolina Community Loan Fund is, and exactly what we do and how we might be able to be of assistance to you as you all move on in your entrepreneurial pursuits. So at the South Carolina Community Loan Fund, we are a nonprofit community development financial institution. And all that simply means is a fancy way of saying we are a mission-driven lender. All of our lending focuses around our mission statement. which you see on the screen before you there. And it's to advance equitable access to capital, to build assets and benefit communities and people most in need of economic opportunity. We focus our work primarily in low and moderate income communities across the state of South Carolina. So areas that for whatever reason, capital has not traditionally found its way to, those are the communities that we want to run to and assist as the South Carolina Community Loan Fund. And we do that through four unique, well, not really unique, but four specific loan programs that we operate. The first of which you see on your screen there being affordable housing. We work with developers of affordable housing across the state of South Carolina that want to help put more affordable homes into the marketplace to help folks that may not be able to afford market rate rents. So through this particular program, rather they be an existing or experienced developer or a new developer that wants to build some housing for rent or for sale across the state, we're happy to engage with those folks to address the affordable housing crisis, quite frankly, across the state. We do small business lending as well, which is our second program, which of course barbershops and beauty salons would fall under our small business program. And that operates as you would expect at any typical, same as any typical financial institution or bank. With the one difference being most of our financial institution partners require somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 years of existing operations before they'll consider you for a loan request. Whereas at South Carolina Community Loan Fund, we will consider startup entities as well as seasoned business enterprises as well, which sets us apart a bit from our commercial banking colleagues. We offer a healthy food retail program as well, which is our third program. Through that particular program, we seek to eradicate food deserts and put food access into communities that otherwise may not have access to fresh fruits and vegetables. So through that program, we look at grocery stores, corner stores, farmers markets, mobile food units as well that are looking to take food into communities that may not have a grocery store. So if you know of anyone that may have a healthy food idea or you yourself have a healthy food idea, we're happy to engage you around conversations on that as well. And our fourth and final program is community facilities. That's a fancy way of saying essential services within any community that may not have access to it, rather it be a daycare, rather it be a senior citizen center, rather it be a doctor's office or health facility. Those are all things that we look at through that particular loan program. Just as a continuation of who we are, to give you a little bit more information, we got our start back in 2005 in the Charleston Tri-County area, and since then, of course, have expanded statewide. We're still headquartered in Charleston, where our home office is. However, we do have offices in Columbia, out of which I'm seated, as well as Zan. And we have an office in Spartanburg, which services the upstate. As I mentioned, we're a mission-driven lender. We are a community development financial institution, or a CDFI, and we received that designation from the United States Department of Treasury in 2007. Just simply to state it in another way, South Carolina Community Loan Fund is a lender with heart. While we do look at key financial ratios and income and statements, some of which Zan is going to talk about today, we do also look at how you fit within our mission, what impact your business or project is going to make on your community, and we factor all of those together to make our lending decisions. As far as what we provide, I already spoke a little bit about this. We do offer lending services, of course, in the 4 program areas that I highlighted earlier, but we do also offer technical assistance services as well. We offer individual and group technical assistance for both developers of housing or projects and entrepreneurs as well that may need some additional assistance and preparation before they solicit financing for their small business or project. Individual technical assistance, all that is just one-on-one training. We do provide one-on-one training, and if you're interested in taking advantage of that, we'll be happy to set you up one-on-one with a member of our lending staff, and they'll sit down with you and talk through your project or your business idea and assess your level of readiness to enter into the financing process. And if you're not quite there yet, we'll of course be honest with you about that and put you in touch with the resources that you need to get you ready to consider financing. We do also offer group technical assistance, and all that means it's a class like you're in right now. It's a cohort-based learning opportunity alongside other developers and entrepreneurs, rather they be seasoned or rather they be new entrepreneurs or developers, such as some of you may be on the call. One note is that all of the technical assistance and training services offered by South Carolina Community Loan Fund are absolutely free of charge. And I'm trying to advance to the next slide. To give you a brief synopsis of a couple of the programs that we do offer, because I know someone out there is asking the question, what kind of TA do you guys offer, James? So in the way of group technical assistance, we have two programs that we're offering currently. One designed for healthy food-based businesses, and we call that program Feeding Innovation. And that's a group TA program that's designed to provide business plan training specifically to folks with healthy food-based ideas. Through this program, participants receive 8 weeks of entrepreneurial training and instruction. And at the conclusion of the program, each participant is given the opportunity to perform a live pitch and win $20,000 towards their business expenses and operation. If I could pause briefly and ask you all to please mute your lines. I'm hearing some background noise from someone. Feeding Innovation, just a quick note, is going to launch in Columbia here this fall. For information on how to enroll in that program, please visit our website at www.sccommunityloanfund.org. Our second group TA program, the Local Entrepreneur Accelerator Program, or LEAP, and that's designed, again, to provide business plan training as well, but to entrepreneurs across business industries. You'll recall I said Feeding Innovation was specifically designed for healthy food-based business ideas, but LEAP is designed for business ideas across industries and across the spectrum. Through this particular program, we offer 10 weeks of entrepreneurship training and instruction, again, with the participants being given an opportunity to perform a live pitch for an opportunity to win $20,000 for their business enterprise. Again, that's money that does not have to be paid back. We're currently in the midst of a session of LEAP right now in Barnwell, but we will be launching a second session this fall. So if you are interested in learning more or you're interested in participating, please keep an eye on our website, on our social media, through our Facebook page, also through signing up for our newsletter as well. So with that, I'm going to end my commercial on South Carolina Community Loan Fund, but we'll be happy to answer any questions you all have. But now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Zan Zettler, to talk us through business financing.
Thank you very much, James. And again, welcome to everyone who is joining us virtually. And also thanks to Richland County for allowing us to help them make history. This is pretty neat on a Monday. As Michelle said, I am not new to finance. Actually, the month of June represents my 32nd year of being in finance in some form or another. So don't let my youth and experience fool you. I kind of know a little bit about finance. I've also been on both sides of the aisle when it comes to business financing. I was a serial entrepreneur in Massachusetts, a part of several financial startups when the Great Recession happened. So I've been to people asking for money, and I've also been on the side where I've been giving loans to businesses. So I kind of have an idea of what it feels like to be on both sides. But I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about what business financing is. And it may be a different definition of what you think, but I think you need to keep in mind as to exactly what you're trying to accomplish as a business owner. First and foremost, business financing is getting the money that you need to start, operate, and grow your business. It's long-term. It's a strategic plan. It's not something that begins and ends with your very first application. Business owners and partners in businesses constantly have to be concerned about how to finance their business and how to get money and how to get resources. So think of this as a long-term exercise as you begin your business, or if you're in the process of wanting to grow your business or expand your business. I also taught business and taught finance at several universities. So I love talking about this topic. So I'm going to kind of not try to veer off and stay on task today so we can answer as many questions. But when you're looking at financing, and there's really two major avenues that you can go down, two roads that you can travel. And one is equity financing versus debt financing. And why I think that's very important, no matter where you're at on your business continuum, whether you haven't started, just started, or you wanting to grow. Equity financing is basically you are taking your money or someone else's money and putting it into the business operation. And what is very unique about equity financing, and something that I want you to make a note of, is that equity financing does not require repayment. You don't guarantee anybody anything when they give you equity financing. Now, the closest that most of us come to this is if we buy common stock in a company. If you buy a share of Walmart, Walmart isn't guaranteeing you anything. You're hoping that you are going to see growth in your investment through how well the business does. And you may say, well, Zan, I'm not Walmart. I don't understand how this applies to me. Well, if you're trying to open a barber shop, or you're trying to become a cosmetologist, you may have people that know you that believe you're going to be successful, and they may want to be a partner with you. They don't necessarily have to be in your business. They can be a silent partner. One of my startups in New England, 5 of our partners were silent partners. They gave us money because they knew of the track record from what we had done previously. So they're investing in the business, but we're not guaranteeing them we're going to pay them anything back. Debt financing, on the other hand, is what most of us are familiar with. You go and you borrow money. But now you need to keep in mind that when you borrow money from somebody, you're making a promise to repay. The major difference is, as your business matures and grows, equity financing is not a claim on future cash flow. Debt financing is. If you make $5,000 from cutting hair this month or being a barber, if you have debt financing, you have to take some of that $5,000 and pay other people back. Equity financing, not necessarily the case. So those are the two major avenues that you can go down to get financing. The other is financing working capital versus financing fixed assets. Working capital is what you need to have to keep your business doors open, the day-to-day expenses. That means paying your employees if you have them, paying utility bills, making sure that your business permits are up to date, making sure that you have power to generate your sign and to generate all your equipment so you can use it. Working capital financing is very expensive. It's very difficult to come by. And the reason is that it's not supported by any collateral. It's supported by your ability to repay. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later and how that plays into deciding what type of financing you need. The other type of financing is financing fixed assets. And those are things that you can touch and feel that you're going to use in your business for at least a year or longer. That's the chair that people sit in while you're doing their hair. If you're not a cosmetologist, this may be your vehicle that you take out to your construction site. If you are a barber, this is the workstation that you use, the building that you're in, the chairs that people sit in. All of those are considered fixed assets. And getting financing for those items is a little easier because they serve as the collateral, and the cost of that financing is considerably less. So when you start your business, normally you may need both types of financing, fixed asset and working capital financing. And so the cost of those are going to be very different. The loan terms are going to be very different. So keep that in mind. So that's kind of a conceptual idea of what business financing is. So James, if I could have you advance to the next slide. Thank you. What I really want you to leave here today knowing is you have options to business financing. This has always been difficult. Getting businesses financing is not easy. It's always difficult, no matter how good the economy is. But I can tell you in the 3 businesses that I was a part of that were startups, 2 of them were started in the worst economic times in U.S. history, and they were the most successful. The one that was an unadulterated, absolute disaster could not have been started at a better time. So don't let the fact that we're in whatever economic condition we're in, no one can really classify it, don't let that stop you from starting a business. This could be a very opportune time to do it. But you have options to getting financing. You may be sitting there on this seminar today going like, I can't get financing. Nobody wants to talk to me about finance. So let's go over all of your options. Number one is investing your own money. When I was in a bank, I was always amazed that people would come into the bank lobby. That was when people came into banks, going back to that 30 years when I first started. And they would say, well, I don't have any money. And I would go like, I don't necessarily think that's true. You own a home. You've been in your home for 10 years. You may have equity in your house. You have a retirement plan. You have money in your retirement that you may be able to use. You have cash value in your life insurance policies. That's money that you can use. Do you have a savings account? And this is where a loan officer is invaluable to you. They're your guardian angels. They're going to be the ones to walk you through this process and help you go through this to see exactly what all of your options may be. But investing your own money is a great way to start a business. And it's also the cheapest way to get financing. The other option I have here I want to talk about is earn the right to borrow, because when I present this slide, it's usually misunderstood what I'm really trying to say, earn the right to borrow. I used to have a lot of applicants that would come in and say, I want to borrow $500,000 to start a business, when they have not borrowed any large sums of money previously. I want to also talk a little bit about today is what bankers and traditional financing institutions, and also a little bit to the degree what we look for here at the South Carolina Community Loan Fund when we go to approve someone for a business loan. We're looking to see that you've borrowed different sums of money and you've repaid it back. So it's very difficult to go in and borrow a large sum of money when you may not have borrowed more than $20,000 or $30,000 in the past. Obviously, if you've owned a home and you've had a mortgage and you've repaid that, that's great. But if you've only done a couple of credit cards and you only have one business trade line open, it's going to be difficult to borrow a large sum of money. So you may have to reduce your business plan and reduce your financing to coincide with your right to borrow. Also, if you are a member of a credit union or a bank and you've been doing business with them for a long time, mention that to them. I've been doing business here for 10 years. I've never asked to borrow any money. In my opinion, as a former banker, you've earned the right to borrow. If your checking account is in good standing and you have been a saver, then you're earning the right to borrow from me. Also, if you're looking to start a business and you're working for someone and they don't have any apparent exit strategy, then you may have earned the right to buy that business from them and to borrow from them. a lot of very successful business stories are employees who've bought out the person that they're working for. The other is showing profitability. And you may be sitting on this call or listening in saying, I'm trying to start a business. How am I going to show profitability? I'm also talking about your personal business financing and your personal financing. They both go together. Small and mid-sized businesses, the person and the business are rarely separable. So in showing profitability, are you a saver? Nowadays, banks have enormous ability to extract data, and there's a profitability assigned to every account. Do you have more money coming into your account than going out, and what do you do with the difference? Do you show a personal profitability statement? Because if you can show profit personally to a lender that I was and still am to a degree at South Carolina Community Loan Fund, then you're showing me that you can successfully run a business and make it profitable. Remember one thing, I'll say all lending institutions, they want to make sure you can pay the loan back. We're risk adverse, all of us. And that's one thing we want to see. Is this applicant going to pay back this loan? It's the old saying, and a lot of lending is psychology and behavior, because prior behavior is an absolutely positive indicator of future behavior. So that's what we're looking about, showing profitability. Understanding and keep your working capital, retained earnings. When you start your business, don't spend every dollar that business makes, because you need to reinvest that money and retain it so that you can get through the tough times like we're having now. Also, for a new business, it's very important to be lean on fixed assets. When you're first starting a business, you do not want to put yourself in a position where you are borrowing large sums of money that you have to pay back very large payments. Commercial business financing is very different from your home. Your mortgage may be 10, 20, and even nowadays, they can go out 40 years on a mortgage. Commercial lending has a much shorter time period. We don't finance for those long periods. So when you first start your business, you want to be lean on fixed assets. That first business that I helped to start, we absolutely owned nothing. It was an embarrassing first balance sheet. We didn't even own we owned the phones, the computers, literally nothing was owned. The balance sheet was 4 lines long. It was embarrassing for me to put it together. Our employees were leased by Insperity. We owned nothing for the first year. I wouldn't allow anybody to buy anything. Be very lean on fixed assets. And also when you go to borrow, match your sources and use of funds. Know why you're borrowing the amount that you're borrowing. A lot of clients that I had came in, they wanted to borrow $500,000, but couldn't tell me what they were doing with all the money. We need to match the uses and sources of funds. Also find partners. For small to mid-sized businesses, this is why the partnership form of business organization is common, because partners can bring to your business things that you don't have. They may bring money. They may bring a building. And as far as barbers and cosmetologists, they may bring sources of revenue. You want to know if somebody's going to go in business with you at a barbershop. Hey, how many people's hair do you cut on a monthly basis that you can bring with you? So having partners to help start up your business is something you should take a look at when you're trying to start a new business. All of the 3 businesses that I was a part of that were startups, I had 4 to 8 partners in each one of them. Angel investors and venture capital, I don't know where you're at in your business plan. If you have a totally new model for your business and you think this is something that could really grow rapidly, that you could expand geographically, look at angel investors and venture capital companies. They're out there. I had to come to the office this morning because it was construction in my home. And when I was driving to work, I counted 14 places that lend money. There's no shortage of people that want to lend you money. And there's also angel investors and venture capitalists who will lend you money. It's equity financing. And there's some advantages and disadvantages, but that would almost be a whole nother webinar. So know that there are options out there for you and explore all of them. James, if you can advance to the next slide. Thank you, sir. This is from an underwriting perspective, the do's and don'ts of small business financing. Number one, understand your financial statements. Again, personal and business. If you are starting a business, everything is going to be a projection. Those projections need to be reasonable. I see a lot of projections where somebody's telling me they're going to make $100,000 a month. That is really great. But I can tell you that in South Carolina, virtually there's probably 5,000 tax returns that had $1 million on them or more. That's not easy to do. Most small businesses don't make money for 3 to 5 years. If you've got a small business that's going to make $100,000 a month, you're going to get financing really quick. But it needs to be reasonable, your projections and your financing. Also, understand your collateral options. When you're starting a business, if you're not willing to put everything you own into the business, then you need to really think about whether or not you want to start a business, because I'm thinking on the side of the lender. If I'm looking at a borrower that doesn't want to pledge their house, doesn't want to pledge their savings account, doesn't want to pledge their collateral, am I going to give them money? Probably not. But if there's certain things that are off the table, then you need to know that and you need to convey that to your lender. Look, I didn't have a house when I grew up. My parents did, my grandparents didn't have. I'm not putting my house up for anything. Fair enough. But you need to understand that that may affect your ability to get a loan. Also, you may not want to put your business up as collateral. You may own the site the business is going in. You say, look, this is a rental property that's been in my family for generations. I used to do agricultural lending, and farms are sacred to people. They don't ever want to put that up as collateral. So if you don't want to put things in collateral, up for collateral, then you need to recognize that that's going to be an impediment to borrowing. Also, understand the risk and cost of loan types. And if you're not a numbers person, you need to get somebody who is, because you do not want to sign a loan for a business until you and somebody, a lawyer, an accountant, has read every word in every page. I used to do a lot of mortgages, and I used to be amazed nobody reads those documents. All right, we're in a mortgage sign. I didn't read them all until I got home, and then I said, oh my God, I can't believe I signed that. But I wanted to get my wife into a house. On a commercial loan, read every page and read it twice. Make sure you know what you're signing. The other one is get grants. If there are grants out there, get them. Research them and get them. That's free money. I can't beat free. Nobody can beat free. So make sure that you have uncovered every stone and to see if there's a grant out there. There are grants out there for starting businesses, and go apply for them. You can get them. The other one is shop around. Like I said, when I went to work this morning, I passed 14 places that offer business loans. I know they do because they call me all the time. But they all have different rates. They all have different ways they look at risk. You need to shop around. But as a business person, shop around for everything. Your initial financing, your accounting cost, your legal services, your insurance. Always shop around. And get expert advice. And I'm going to say this because I truly believe this. The best advice you can get is from somebody who has already done it. If you want to start a barbershop, go to someone who you know has been in a success and carry them to Ruth Chris or wherever, paid for, and get every information you can from them. And I want to tell you, successful small business people love to talk about themselves. They have egos. That's one of the traits. They have big egos. Also, there's a book that I listed here, and I very rarely ever pitch books because as a professor, I just didn't like for people to have to go out and buy books. But The Millionaire Next Door is a really great book. And I used to assign it in all my business classes that dealt with financing, because these are people who are ordinary people who you would not think that are millionaires. They're typically the richest people in the town, and they typically own a small to mid-sized business. And this gentleman that wrote this book talks about them. And you can get it on Amazon for under $5. So this isn't a huge investment. but you will be able to understand how they built their and how they lived their lives. And I will tell you a quick story. When I was at a bank that I worked at, and I can't use names because confidentiality always extends and goes beyond when I left. But there was this client who had this grading and paving company. Always was dirty, always looked like he'd been crawling around in mud. And one day I came into the bank and he was clean shaven and everything. And I called him by name because I didn't recognize him. He said, "Yeah, I want to talk with you. I want to kind of get my financial house in order. I'm thinking about retirement." And I'm, of course, thinking to myself, well, this is probably going to take long. I mean, then I started pulling up stuff. This guy had over $100 million. That is not a small sum of money in 1993. And if you would have seen this guy on the street, you wouldn't think, as a matter of fact, he used to borrow money for me to buy crackers. That was a really me. So you have a dollar, I have a dollar with me. But again, he was a small business owner that was paving roads to people's houses and regrading their driveways. And I'm like, this guy is rich beyond a map. But again, the millionaire next door, his car was like 10 years old. Always like was fun. I never got behind him because I didn't want it to blow up and damage my car. And I was just like amazed. But that's what the millionaire next door will kind of illustrate much better than I can. Don't get short-term expensive debt. Please refrain from that. And I know it's hard being a small bit. Look, I've put my home in hock to make payroll. I mean, the stuff I did, if my wife knew, she would probably divorce me. I just know this is being recorded, so hopefully she won't go back and look at it. But do not get short-term expensive debt. That is going to compound your problem. Some working capital loans, the APR is 300%. There's other ways. There's other ways. Do not get multiple small business credit cards. They know who you are. They're going to send you, they're going to call you, and you'll fall for it because there's desperation that seeks in sometimes and hits in. But try to refrain from this. The other one is to be careful of vendor financing, and I am not anti-vendor financing. I am pro-vendor financing. In the best examples I can give, and you may already know this, a barber shop, because I used to finance barber shops. The person that is going to try to sell you that barber chair wants to finance it. And that may be your best bet, but it's going to be an interest rate in that lease payment. The person that wants to do your work counter and make it ornate as possible, they may finance it. But there's going to be a price for that. So be careful of vendor financing. James, if you'll move. Getting the steps to getting a business loan. This is a kind of like I've put together what the SBA says and what I've seen over the years. This is what's going to get James's attention, your loan officer's attention, the credit officer's attention. Have a business plan that is understandable, that is believable, and it makes sense. Warren Buffett was on Saturday night, and I was listening to an interview with him. And he said one of the ways he decides whether or not to invest in a business is he reads the annual report, and if he understands it, then he'll invest in it. And if he doesn't, he won't. Now, Warren Buffett's a pretty successful guy, so I'm going to take a page from Warren's book. If I can read your business plan that makes sense and I understand it, that's going to get my attention. Know what you can afford. Do not overborrow. But at number two, make a note, do not underborrow. And this is a mistake that I have seen, that you come in to get a business loan, you don't borrow enough. If you borrow 35 or 40,000, if it's going to take 70 to open your business, you borrowed money, can't open it, it's going to be tough. So make sure you borrow enough, but don't over borrow. And I know a lot of this is a balancing act. Study your financial statements, whether they're projections or real, both your personal and business. Know those back and forth. Number four, I want to talk about, check your credit report. And I underscored the word report. There is a new craze in America. It's called people that are obsessed about their credit score. Like, they get dings if it goes down 1 point. The Credit Karma. I used to have people come in my office freak out because when I pulled the credit report score went down. Well, of course it did. I told you I was. Do not get crazy about your score. I could care less about your score. Well, I do, but I don't. I'm going to go into the credit report because the report is going to say who you do business with, how you've paid them over the long run, and it also says who all you're going to ask for credit. The report is where, and by the way, the score comes from the report. So focus on what's really mattering, the report. Get a copy of your credit report. It's free, and read it every single, at least year or every 6 months. And you'll find mistakes. You'll find people that have put stuff on there that's, you never heard of these people. Why are they on my credit report? And it also has public information. So make sure, but get the report. Just don't get your score, you know. Because also you may have an 800 credit score, and this is a true story. I declined someone a business loan. They had an 800 credit score. That's pretty high. And he's flipped out on me. I can't believe you did. He said, well, why are you doing this? And I said, have you read your credit report? You have 179 open lines of credit. He said, but yeah, I don't have anything on them. And I said, but you could leave my bank today and borrow $20 million. Am I going to loan you 5 more? I said, not a chance. So the score may not tell the complete story. So that's why you need to look at your report. All right. Establish collateral options. We went over that a little bit. Know what you want to put into your business, what you want to put collateral. If you don't want to do something or don't want something to be a collateralized object or a piece of property, then take it out of the equation up front. Show equity contribution. Most lenders want to see some type of equity. More importantly, research your financial options, because you do have options. And we'll answer questions. I want to try to finish up and get to questions. And James, I think this is the last slide that I have. Common elements for a loan package, your business plan, of course. Business financial statements, current and historical, if you're a current business, or pro forma, which are projections if you're just starting. Personal financial statements. You should have your own personal financial statement. This is very important. So I'd highlight this one. If you personally don't know where your money is and how you're using it, a lender is going to be very skeptical to lend you money for a business. Your personal and business tax returns. It could be anywhere from 3 to 5 years, depending on how much you're borrowing and how much you're asking for. You have to show business tax returns, because we need to know that Uncle Sam is taken care of. They're the creditor of first recourse. Everybody stands behind them. So that's why that is important. Your legal business organization structure, that does affect financing. That would be a whole other webinar unto itself. But when you start out in business, whether you're a sole proprietor, if you are a partnership, a subchapter S corporation, that all affects the type of financing, how funds are distributed, how profits are distributed. It's very important that you think very long and hard about your beginning legal business organization structure. I would highly recommend that you get legal advice on that. And there are ways to get affordable legal advice on business structure formation. The other is to consider all of your startup considerations. It's not just fixed assets. It's not just your working capital, your permits. Do you have the proper permits? Do you have your liability insurance in place? Are you able to afford your business license every year? So there are a lot of startup considerations, your initial advertising. So there's a lot of things to consider in your initial startup. And I know that was a lot of information. James, I think that's the last slide for me.
All right. And I will power through these last couple of slides I have so we can get to the good stuff and answer questions you all have. I do want to introduce the members of our lending team, some of who have been able to join us this morning on the call. If you have additional questions, if you want to provide South Carolina Community Loan Fund as a resource to your friends and colleagues, and we certainly hope that you do, these are the folks that you really want to contact that are on the ground doing the work every day. Joseph Dukes is our loan officer along the coast of South Carolina. Here in the Midlands, to include Richland County, we have Ms. Sadia Bellamy, who will be the smiling face assisting you all who decide that you may want to engage with the loan fund further. In the upstate, in our Spartanburg office, we have Mr. Brendan Buttermer. And Kelly Sharkey, she assists me statewide. She's our program manager, and she operates and organizes those technical assistance training opportunities that I mentioned a little earlier on in the call. So if you have an interest, well, prior to the new reality we're living in with COVID-19, we will actually host these workshops in person for the remainder of the calendar year. Through the end of 2020, at least, we'll be hosting those virtually via a webinar similar to this one. So if there's content that you would like to see that you haven't been able to tap to or found elsewhere, please do reach out to Kelly, let her know, and we'll be happy to take a look at putting together some curriculum and offering additional webinars as we move forward. One final note before we answer questions. I did mention, of course, we are in the midst of a pandemic. Additionally, we're in the midst of examining our conscience as a country as well. And though times are uncertain and we know the road ahead is going to be rough, South Carolina Community Loan Fund is committed to assisting our current borrowers and new friends, much like yourselves as well, to do all we can to help you get through. We are confident in each of you and the contributions you make and your work makes to improving the lives of our friends and neighbors across the state. So we just want to take a moment to thank you each for all that you do to power this state's economic engine. And as best as you can, please remain resolute in your resolve and confidence in your purpose. And most of all, stay determined to persevere through the hard times. I know that the economy has hit many of you, or COVID-19, the economic downturn resulting, has hit many of you rather hard. I myself, my barber's on the call. I haven't been to see him in a couple of months, and I've been cutting my own hair very badly, as you can tell. So just please, as best you can, remain determined to persevere. And Pat, I'll be coming to see you very soon, sir. I do promise. This is my contact information. If you do have any additional questions, you don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to a loan officer just yet, please feel free to reach out to me. That's my work cell phone number. You can reach me on that or through my email, which is just my first name at scommunityloanfund.org. Also, another shameless plug, please follow us on both Twitter and Facebook. We do offer information on webinars and trainings that we offer throughout the course of the year through our social media platforms. So please, ma'am and sir, if you are on social media, please take the time to give us a follow. So with that, we will answer questions. And one question that I did see just monitoring the chat a little bit during the webinar was, what's the difference between working capital and a line of credit? So I am going to defer to Zan so he can give his blush on that.
Sure, absolutely, Jamie, and thanks for the question. Normally, a working capital loan is a loan where you get a certain amount of money on a given day. You're going to pay it back over a certain period. So that's a line of credit is an open amount that you may or may not use. And that can stay open for months or years. So that's the primary difference. Lines of credit, normally, if you're looking at traditional financial institutions, they're going to have fees attached with them if you use the money or not. So with working capital loans, it's more usually say specific purpose. Normally, I'll give you an example. I like to give examples. When I was in the startup company, we were doing financial software, so we had to buy a server. And so we went and got working capital to purchase a $20,000 service. The loan was for 8 months because we'd have people subscribing to our financial software to pay it off. We also had an open line of credit for, around $100,000 that we drew down when we needed it, paid it off, and then you restored that $100,000. A line of credit is very similar to a credit card, and your payments may fluctuate based on how much is open. Whereas that working capital loan is normally going to have a fixed payment, principal, interest. It's going to be for a fixed period of time.
And Zan, we have a follow-up question on that line of credit versus a loan. Which is better for building business credit?
They both work the same way. They're both going to give you the same positives and negatives. For most lenders, they typically would like to see a loan where you're going to pay it off in installments. Banks want to get your interest because that's profit that they can take and relend. As far as how it affects your Dun & Bradstreet and your typical credit profile score, they almost work the same. So in terms of building credit, you're accomplishing the same objectives. I will say that normally lines of credit are usually easier to obtain than working capital loans. And they're usually, the interest rates on lines of credit typically are lower. So they both do the same thing is the short answer.
Thank you for that, sir. From Chris, SCCLF hosts a great summit. What are the plans for the 2020 summit? Thank you for that question, Chris. So we made the decision very early on in the COVID-19 pandemic to cancel all of our in-person training opportunities for the remainder of 2020. So unfortunately, we will not be hosting a summit in 2020. We are looking at 2021, so more details to follow on that. But we do plan to have a robust offering of webinars for the remainder of this calendar year. So again, if there's content that you would like to see, please do reach out and let us know. But immediately forthcoming in short order here, we'll be having a panel discussion webinar for healthy food entrepreneurs, and one as well around community facility entities as well. Another question here from Lacenta. How do your rates differ from a traditional bank? Are your loans SBA guaranteed or backed? So thank you for that question, Lacenta. Our rates differ from a traditional bank in that you're going to find, to be perfectly frank, our rates are going to be higher than a traditional bank. Reason for that is, number one, we are not direct competition for the local banks and financial institutions. Number two, the cost of the capital that we lend is a lot higher than traditional bank or financial institution. The lion's share of the money that we lend to entrepreneurs, we borrow from bigger banks and financial institutions that invest in us. So we have to charge our interest rates such that we earn enough to repay the loans we take out from the banks, and we have enough to keep the lights on and also assist as many entrepreneurs as possible across the state. Another reason that banks' capital is a little bit cheaper, and Zan covered this, did a fine job of it a little bit earlier. Banks are able to get their capital directly from the consumer. So when you open up that savings account, when you open up that certificate of deposit at your local bank, they're taking that money and they're relending it as well. And if you've looked at your savings account lately, you know they're not paying you very much in the way of a percentage on those accounts. So they're able to charge a lower rate of interest on their loans as a result. But that's a good question. Erica posed a good question as well here. For cash type businesses, what types of documents should be retained at all times? So I'll take a stab at that, and Zan, you can certainly feel free to fill in the blanks where I missed something. But for a cash type business such as a barbershop or a beauty salon, one thing I would encourage you to do, please ma'am and please sir, if you are not doing it currently, do not feel bad about yourself, because I assure you you're not the only one, but please make sure you're filing a tax return. I cannot tell you how many barbers and cosmetologists and hairstylists that I meet with on an annual basis, and I would say 9 out of 10 of them tell me that they don't file tax returns. So the difficulty you'll find when you go into a bank or you come to an institution like South Carolina Community Loan Fund to borrow capital is we're going to ask you for your last 3 years of tax returns. So please, please, please make sure you are filing those, because you don't do yourself any favors when you go to get capital when you're not. Another quick side note in regards to that. If you are filing taxes currently, pat yourself on the back, you get a gold star. But please make sure that you are claiming what you're making on those taxes. That's rather you're in the service industry, such as the hair care industry, whether you're in a commercial industry, rather that be construction, or you have a retail store or operation. Whatever kind of enterprise you're operating, please make sure that your tax returns reflect what you're actually making. If you've lost money for the year, that's fine. And many accountants will work with their clients to help them show a loss, so you reduce your tax liability. I will preface this statement by saying I'm not a tax professional, so please don't take this advice as that. But don't claim a loss if you actually don't have one, if you can avoid it, because again, when you go in to solicit business financing and we see a loss on your tax returns, that's going to cause a lot of questions on the back end. So please, ma'am, and please, sir, strongly consider claiming what you owe on your taxes. A question from Pat here. Is there help you can get with your business plan? That is an excellent question, Pat. Yes, there is. And as a matter of fact, there is free, yes, I did say free, F-R-E-E, absolutely free assistance that you can receive in getting help with your business plan. And that is through the South Carolina Small Business Development Center, or SBDC for short. If you do a search in Google for South Carolina SBDC, their website will pop up for you. They have a great team of consultants right here in Columbia and across the state that will sit down with you and provide assistance in business planning. Also, if you have not availed yourself to SBDC as a resource, they offer training programs and webinars throughout the course of the year as well. So they are another value-added resource that you can take advantage of that is completely free of charge to you as a South Carolina resident. And one more shameless plug, if you are new to the Richland County Office of Small Business Opportunity, please avail yourself to Erica and her team. If you do not know them, please get to know them. As they indicated at the start of the call, for those of you who may have hopped on late, they have a wealth of resources that they can put you in contact with as well. So if you do not know them, please get to know them. There's no excuse for you not knowing them and introducing yourself after this webinar. So please, ma'am, please, sir, if you've not done so, take some time to get to know them. You will not regret that you did. A question from Tara. Are there any grants available for for-profit businesses? So I am going to ask Erica to help me answer this question. I will say I have not personally come across any. But Erica, do you all know of any resources that are available for for-profit businesses?
Well, right now for the COVID-19, Richland County, we do still have funds available. We have the COVID-19 Small Business Relief Grant. That grant, the application process ends June 30th. So there's still funds available. And that's one of the reasons why we're having this training today, to make sure when you go to apply for these grants, you have, you're familiar with the documentations, or what would the underwriters look for when they're reviewing these grants, the grant application. So right now I know for sure that we at Richland County, and you go to Richland County, sc.gov, and it's under the COVID-19, right there on the landing page, COVID-19. So you can actually apply. It's not a grant, but I know from our partners at SBA, I know we heard a lot about the PPP loan. It's a loan, but there's a lot of funds available. And from my understanding, because folks could not get qualified, they still have billions of dollars still available. I'm seeing folks are putting some things into the chat box also, but definitely Richland County, sc.gov. I mean, not Richland County. Yes. You can go to our website at Richland County and you'll see the COVID-19 Grant Relief Fund application. It's a Zoom grant and it's up through June 30th is the deadline to apply. And it's for nonprofit and for-profit businesses. Funds are still available.
Thank you, Erica. And I apologize to you, Lucinda. I did not answer the second part of your question here. Our South Carolina Community Loan Funds loans, SBA guaranteed, are backed. No, ma'am, they are not. We are not an SBA lender at present. So our loans are not guaranteed or backed by the Small Business Administration. From making the cut, we have a question: what business licenses are needed? So for South Carolina Community Loan Fund, we are going to ask that you present us with your Secretary of State documentation to include your certificate of existence and articles of incorporation or organization, depending on how your business is set up. Beyond that, a business license for the county in which you are operating, but we would not request any additional business licenses. A second question here from Patrick: are there any grants or loans to be qualified or certified for scalp micropigmentation? So through South Carolina Community Loan Fund, we do not have any grants specifically for micropigmentation. We could look potentially to do a loan for an entity that's looking to offer that as a part of their suite of services. But Erica, does Richland County have anything specifically for barbers and cosmetologists looking to get additional certifications?
Currently we don't, but we can still refer you back to Cheryl Sally at the SBDC, and they can also assist with that. But for the COVID-19 relief grant, we definitely encourage our barbershops and beauty shops and small businesses like those to definitely apply for our grant, COVID-19 grant fund that we have. It's not, it's not specified for micropigmentation.
I don't think we missed any of the questions in the chat. I think we've answered, unless anyone else has any more.
Well, if we don't, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much, Zan and James. This has been helpful. Me personally, I've learned a lot just sitting here in this past hour. I took a lot of notes while I was listening to you guys. I hope that this workshop was beneficial to all the participants that stayed on. We actually had majority of our participants stayed on throughout the whole workshop. So that is good. Thank you guys so. They're asking about the slides. Can we make the slides available, James? Or is that?
Yes, ma'am. I will email them to Michelle, and you guys can disperse those as you see fit.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we're going to ask Margaret Jones to come on and just kind of talk just briefly about our certification. And after that, they said, can we make the recording available? Yes, it will also be available on Richland County's YouTube page and also on our website. And it'll be shortly after this, we'll make everything available so you can go back and replay it again if it's something else you may have missed. Ms. Jones? And you can keep putting your comments in the chat box if you have any other questions.
Good morning. I would provide some, Erica, can you hear me? I can't hear him. Okay. Again, good morning, and I would like to provide some brief information about our program here at the Office of Small Business Opportunity. We have the small local and emerging small local business enterprise. Our program is race gender neutral and is non-federally funded. We provide avenues for our SLBEs to compete for county contracts in architecture, engineering, construction, professional, non-professional, and wholesale. The eligibility requirements are that you be located in Richland County for at least 1 year prior to submission of your application, independently owned and operated, and agree and comply with the requirements that is monitored by the Office of Small Business Opportunity. Our applications are online, and the website for that is richlandcountysc.gov/OSBO. And our phone number is 803-576-1540. Thank you. Erica?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jones. If you look in the chat box, Ms. Kiefer put the website to the COVID-19 Grant Relief Fund. If you're interested in still applying, like I said, we do still have funds available. As far as our office is concerned, we're working from home, but we still monitor our phone calls, emails, etc. So even though the building is physically closed, we're still actively working normal business hours. With that, I just want to thank all of our participants for coming on and staying on. Like I said earlier, I hope that you guys gain a whole lot of knowledge like I did. And just another plug in. I know during this time, we all dealt with a lot of uncertainties, don't know from day to day what tomorrow's gonna look like. And at some point in time, it may have gotten stressful. It's like, how are you gonna deal with the stress? And so we got a class for that too. So coming up on Thursday, June the 25th, it's called Can We Talk? Eliminating Mental Health Barriers. And this class is to help us deal with the mental stress during disasters. The presenter will be Dr. Cheryl Cummings from Stairway Counseling Service. Very, very, very good individual. I'm excited. It's from 10 to 11:30, and you'll be getting more information. Those of you who are interested, you can go to our website at www.richlandcountysc.gov/OSBO, and you can click on the link. It will take you to the registration. So again, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the team for putting this on. Thank you, Zan. Thank you, James. I really appreciate it. And thank you again to the participants. Let me just check one more time. Is there reciprocity with the SCDOT-DB program or a state small business?
Yeah, I stopped typing because that was too much, but just real quick. So, you know, the state SCDOT's got their Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, and then the South Carolina Division of Small and Minority Business Contracting has they got reciprocity with each other. So I qualified for one, I got qualification for the state program. And so my question is, do you guys have a relationship like that? So once you qualify for state level, is it, you know, can I bring it over to the county?
Well, with the county, we do recognize certification from DOT, the governor's office, We Bank, SBA. So those certifications, yes, we do recognize. However, you still have to get certified with each one of those entities. But it's definitely with DOT. If you're certified with DOT, because we ask pretty much the same questions, the requirements are the same. We do site visits just like, you know, DOT. So if you get certified with DOT, you definitely be able to get certified with us.
And that's what I was getting at, because it's all the same questions, the same people, you know, doing it over and over and over again. Just,
Right. And with us, you can upload all of your information into our B2G website, and everything is automated. And the only thing we do is just do a site visit. But with COVID-19, we're doing virtual site visits now. So, you know, that shouldn't hold up the process. Thank you for that question.
Erica, I'd like to
Go ahead, Michelle.
To acknowledge, I see one of our SLBEs, Annette Rich, and I just would like to acknowledge her for participating in this virtual training.
And Ms. Lucinta, thank you, Ms. Lucinta. I didn't get to see everybody. It was coming in so fast. But to all our SLBs, if you are if you are still on the call, wave your hand. We just want to acknowledge you and to say thank you. And to the other ones, we hope that you come on and get certified with the county. So with that, don't want to take up any more of your time. Thank you so much for joining us on a Monday morning. And if you have any questions, our office number 803-576-1540. Again, thank you so much and have a good day and stay safe.